So in the book, Broke to a Quarter Million, there's some interesting chapters here. The first chapter starts off, it's called My First Home Was a Dud. So at 22 years old, I bought my first piece of real estate. Single-family home, even though I wanted a multifamily, even then I knew. I wanted a multifamily. My wife at the time, girlfriend at the time, she said, no, fuck that, I want a single family. Our friends won't be happy coming to our multifamily. Has anybody ever heard of this kind of concept? They have friends like this? So I ended up selling that house, which 6 months later caused a divorce. Who knows that if you don't make decisions with your spouse, it could end poorly? Yes. Very good. When you think you're listening, it's in one of these chapters, listen. Really listen. Right? When you think you're listening, really listen. This is something that I thought I understood. I thought I knew. Turns out, there's a lot of stuff you think you know that is just not so. That's one to write down. Seriously. There are things I know that are just not so. Because those are more dangerous than the things you know that are true. Those are more dangerous than the things you don't know. It's the things you think you know that are just not so that are going to take you out of the game. Who knows this is true? In fact, I came up on stage with glasses. I'll tell you a little about the story in a second. I came up on stage with glasses. In these glasses, the room is darker. I have a different view of things. Who can grasp that? So my opinion of this room is that it's a dark room. Guys, just turn up the lights, right? But if you turn up the lights, your experience is not as good as the experience I'm getting, right? It was previously a good experience, and then it's washed out almost. But I can see you clearly. When I take this off, we now have the same perception. We have the same reality. Does that make sense? Most people are walking around with a much foggier shade of glasses than this. And they think they're playing by the rules. But they don't understand. This is actually a game. Life is a game. They think it's work. So I was in bands. We used to go on stage for free, because that's how it works when you're in a band, right, Doug? You play for free quite a bit. And we would play for free. And we put on shows. And we would entertain. And it makes you wonder, why does somebody do that? To spend the 4 hours a day to learn the guitar, to have the bleeding fingers, to be meticulous about playing with other people, which, by the way, way harder than playing by yourself. And then go on stage, which the number one fear of most people is stage. Who's heard that before? Yes. Why would somebody do that? It's because somewhere inside of me there is a desire for validation. Somewhere inside of me, somewhere inside of the coaches, because we hold a very similar mindset, is a desire for other people's approval, other people's opinions. They mean a lot to us. And at first, this was a pretty detrimental way of thinking, because I'm thinking about everybody's opinion. It really made my life scary. But then I shifted eventually, and I liked the entertainment side. I like to be able to entertain and give people an experience and move their lives and their energies. Obviously, it's manifested into training and teaching. But before we got there, who else is in a band? Who knows what I'm talking about when it comes to the practice? All right, awesome. There's a lot. Just let me tell you, there's a lot. And in those early years, I had an obsession with stage. I wanted to be up here, it didn't matter what it was. I played bass, right? Nobody even knows that there's bass in a band. Who knows that there's bass? Who's heard the bass jokes, right? They're terrible. They're the worst. Oh, man. So you're in a band. Yeah, I play bass. Oh. So you carried the stuff. I just wanted to be on stage. I just wanted to be up there. And we played and we toured, and it was really good, but I noticed something very interesting, that even though the band is supposed to be treated like a business, my friends treated it like a hobby. But I was obsessed. I wanted the lights. I wanted the stages. I wanted the rooms. And so I pushed for those elements. They just wanted to say they were in a band. Who knows that we got different goals, but it almost looks the same when we're playing together, right? The practice looks about the same, just like this room looks about the same. It's the people who have bigger goals that when they leave the room, take action. Does that make sense? It's very interesting what I noticed in the band and what I see in rooms like this, especially, by the way, the worst rooms for me to speak at are the RIAs, Real Estate Investor Associations. I love them for networking, can't stand teaching to them, because it's a room full of broke people who have no aspirations to be millionaires. Who here agrees they want to be a millionaire? Yeah, give yourselves a round of applause. Okay. I attained financial freedom by buying 2 houses and starting a business with my wife. We started a wedding invitation business, the irony. Who knows my story? It's about to get good. So we started a wedding invitation business, and I had these 2 rental properties. I sold my first house. She didn't like that. Sold my first house, rolled that cash. We walked away with $32,000, rolled that into buying 2 properties, a 3-family and a 2-family. And while I was renovating one of the units, I had quit my job about 3 weeks earlier so I could help her with the business. See, we had been kind of having a rocky situation in the relationship, and so I thought maybe I'll do a trip to Portugal. We'll go back to the old country. We'll go with her father. We'll make this great experience, bring back the marriage. We got back, and she still wanted the divorce. And so I thought, now I'm stressed. I'm thinking maybe it's because I'm not spending enough time at home. So I quit my job, and I start pushing her business hard. Because I made the mistake of making my entire life about this woman. I loved her with everything that I had. Who I was, to my bones, my core of my existence was making her satisfied, making her happy. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? So, I quit my job. I focused heavily in a position I hate. I was on the phone doing cold calling people who are going to get married to sell them wedding invitations, which fortunately I did have the right audience, right? Like, obviously, of all the people, they were going to get married. They were going to use wedding invitations. And in the moments, in the grind, I was fine. But as soon as I put down the phone, I'd go back into the same room she was. I could feel it. The energy wasn't right. There was something wrong. It was almost like I was an invader in my own house. But weeks went on, and I did my best, and I figured maybe I can convince her. Maybe I can manipulate the situation. I've always been a very persuasive person, so maybe I could persuade her to fall back in love with me. And I'd use those skills that I had. But if you push that skill too far, it becomes manipulation. Who's familiar with this? Mm-hmm. Which is not attractive. And before you know it, I'm renovating one of the units, and I get a text message where she says, "I'm serious, I want the divorce." And so without any energy left, I see a paint bucket, and I just, with the last energy, sit down. And I just sit there and I think about, it just hit me. I was in denial for months. I might have been in denial for a year. It just hit me that this was the end. Who I was no longer existed. What would my family think? What would my life look like? Who was I if I wasn't a married man with a wife and with these houses and this business? Who was I? And a lot of people don't know this, but I grew up very suicidal. As a kid, my mother was a loving woman. She loved me so much, took care of me, but I never felt that. Can we understand the sunglasses, right? I had the wrong sunglasses on. She was giving me love. She was supporting me. She was showing me love, but I hated her with everything that I had. This evil feel. I felt like I was under the trap, under the thumb of an evil dictator. And I couldn't stand it. I hated being told what to do. I hated being told I couldn't do things. I hated being told I wasn't smart enough, or wasn't fast enough, or that I was slow, or that I didn't have the ability to do that because I didn't like people. All of the things that she put on me. Being a loving mother, is it possible to make mistakes? Is it possible to say the wrong things to your kids? And I give her grace, and I've long time ago gotten over it. But growing up, I had a problem. I had mommy issues, right? So I was very suicidal, and I hadn't thought about it for a long time. But when I sat down in that bucket, I remember just thinking, man, this time it's real. This time, there's no reason to continue. There's no reason to be here. We're just going to quick end. But in the same second, 30 seconds, maybe millisecond, I remember thinking my brother. And he's sitting in the back of the room right now, and I remember him being the first person I thought of. And I thought of how much he relied on me, how much he cared about me, and how much he respected me, looked up to me. And that kept me there for about a second. But even that, I could convince myself that I didn't need to serve him anymore. I had my own choices. I had my own ability. But he kept me there just long enough to think of my dad. And that, again, it was there just long enough to keep me around for another second, another millisecond. And I remember closing my eyes and saying, God, I need more. You have to give me something. You have to give me a reason to stay here, because if you don't give me something, there is no purpose in life, and there's no point in me being on this planet. And I knew it. And I asked with a fervor, with a demand, with an expectance of an answer. And all I heard was one word: serve. And I get chills when I think of it. And I said, who? Who do I serve? Who am I? What have I accomplished? Nothing, right? And he said, serve more. And I started opening my mind to the fact that I was not the only human being on the planet at that moment. And I started realizing there were other people outside of the world that I could experience, who could experience me, who I could give to. And I remember walking from that bucket. I stood up, and it was like a chill, right? It was like a chill that I got. I could feel the energy start to crackle. I walked over to the kitchen. I remember as I walked, I felt more confident. I started thinking, more people, serve more, serve more, serve more. And I looked out the window, and I saw one of the buildings that I owned. And then I looked out a little further, and I saw one of the buildings that I would own. And I knew it was mine. I knew I would own it. And I looked a little further, and I saw another one. I said, that's mine too. And then the thought hit me, I'll own this block. And I knew it was true. And in that moment, I said, when I do, I will teach as many people as will listen to me how to build wealth and how to do it in a meaningful way that changes their lives. I was building a team of real estate agents. I was helping people, inspiring people build wealth. And I was doing it all for free because free made sense to me, right? If people don't have the money, then you should teach them how to get money. Who agrees that makes sense logically? Yes. Wrong. I didn't realize. Broke people, poor people will stay poor. There's another saying. Remember the first one, the rich get richer and the poor? Why is that? Why is that? Mindset. They're not willing to listen. You can tell them, and they don't want to hear it. Who's had this experience? Who's tried to serve somebody in the past? Aha! Right? All right. But I found a way to do this. I found a way to serve. I had to go learn first. I had to go earn first. I bought that entire block. I bought 7 houses. And I sold every single one of them. When I sold the last one, I committed to going on this mission. I took on a business partner. I bought a whole lot more real estate with my business partner, who's out in the hallway. Who saw Ron Bowling at registration? He's also not a people. He handles the back end, I handle the front end. That's what she said, I know. What we discovered was that if we wanted to help on a big scale, we were going to have to do more than just serve the people who were broke. We would have to first serve the rich. Because once you make money, by the way, the rich have more money. They have more what? Money. They have more what? Money. Yes, they have more money. And when you serve people with more money, you have more what? Money. It's interesting. Because serving the masses takes a lot of money. Shit doesn't work for free. I'm telling you, you go out there and try to be a social media influencer and serve everybody, try doing it on a shoestring budget. All right, who here's tried to post videos on Facebook and hope that they go somewhere? Did they go anywhere? Yeah, okay, Roger. It's like kicking the ball and it goes there. You wanted to hit the goal way outside, and you're like, what's the deal? When I'm giving mentoring, when I'm giving coaching, I'm giving the very best of what I have at the moment. Is it okay if I make a mistake? Yeah. Because I'll always correct it. If I make a mistake, you'll get a phone call in the middle of the night if I notice it in the middle of the night. If I make a mistake, you're gonna get a scheduled call. It's gonna be fucking ridiculous. You see me make a mistake, you're about to know as fast as I discover it. Does that make sense? Ron has gotten those calls. Darina has gotten those calls. Babe, whoa! The lanyards need to be two sides so that they don't flip over, right? Wake up, this is important. Some things are important. Sometimes I think all things are important because I play at that level. I only look at stuff when I'm going to look at everything. If I'm not going to look at everything, I'm not going to look at it. I will batch my time. Does that make sense? Success principle. Very cool. Awesome.